Yo, what's good, everyone? It's your boy Deke, chilling here. Got a little new segment, little new series. I don't know. It's just something I wanted to talk about because last night was actually the first night I was able to sit down, watch an NBA game from start to finish. Thursday night, it was the opening night. I caught the end of the Pelicans Jazz, and then I literally fell asleep in like the first quarter of the Lakers Clippers. And then one of the other nights, it was with the Mavs Rockets. I caught the end of that game. But then yesterday, Sunday, was the first time I was able to just finally sit down, kick back, relax, have a couple beers. I took my TV outside, watched the game on my PS4. I was able to stream it, so shout out to those type of services out there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was the Rockets versus the Bucks game. So I figured I watched it. I took some notes in my phone, and I was like, man, why not talk about this a little bit tomorrow? Just some of the observations. First, before I get into like the actual Rockets and Bucks game, number one, I don't really miss the fans. I don't know about you guys, but like how the NBA has set this thing up, it's really like they haven't missed a beat. I actually think as much as I'm so pessimistic about like virtual stuff like Zoom and FaceTime, I think a lot of that stuff's overrated. The virtual fans were kind of cool actually. It definitely fills out the court to make it look like we actually got people in the stands. We actually got people that are like cheering on, and you could feel like momentum a little bit just by seeing them cheer whenever the one team makes a basket and they're coming down the court. So it was cool. It's like a nice little wrinkle. I'm not really a hater of it. I actually thought it was kind of neat. I'm trying to think if anything else. Thing weirdly I do miss though, I just find the court to be kind of generic. I miss the Keller combinations that you would see in home arenas for their respective teams. That's really it though. I mean, and that's not even a big deal at all. That's just like a visual thing. It's like, that would be nice. But by all accounts, these games have been amazing, especially that Mavs Rockets game I was talking about. I caught the end of that. That was absurd how that went to overtime. But anyway, um, yeah, so that's about it in terms of just general observations about what the NBA is doing and how they've been able to put this whole bubble together. But for the Bucks and Rockets game, here's some of my game notes. And I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. I'm a little behind in the NBA. Typically, I catch a game or two throughout a week, and then I really start paying attention for the playoffs. So I don't know if some of this stuff I'm going to say is like really obvious because this is how these teams are. All right, so first we got the Rockets defense. One of the big factors, in my opinion, was Robert Covington. Whenever you looked at him, he was one of the first names I wrote down last night early in the game. He was wreaking havoc on the Bucks offense. He had 3 steals in the game, and he can hit a three. It just seems, and because of that trade, these two came together, the Rockets and Covington. It's like a perfect marriage of what each of them needs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the stretch more with Covington and how much of an impact he'll be able to make in these playoffs. So good for him, good for the Rockets. They still have him too on 2 more years, $12 million a piece. So that's like a little caveat there. Next, we have James Harden, 6 steals, and then he was able to make that big stop against Giannis late in the game. I don't know if it was for a go-ahead point, it was a game-tying point. I can't really remember. All I do remember is that Giannis was in the post, Harden was up against him. You would take Giannis like 100 times out of 100 in that scenario, but Harden was able to shut him down. And I don't know if that says more about the Bucks and potential worry that you could have with them in the future here, or if it says more about the Rockets and like, yo, could they turn the leaf in these playoffs, especially with the Warriors being out? Like, could this be a really good scenario for them where their defense, if you look in this Mavs game and then you look at the Bucks game, that was 22 turnovers with the Bucks. Mavericks had 20 turnovers. The Rockets on offense have been able to limit their turnovers, and if they can, I can't even explain it. They're just like this frisky team because there was countless times throughout the game where you had like PJ Tucker, another one of their players, matched up against like Lopez or another one of their taller guys down low, and you're just like, all right, this isn't gonna end good. But they were able to get a steal. They were able to rip the ball out of them and get some timely things to happen. So if they could keep that up, because with basketball, if you're relying strictly off turnovers and the other team make mistakes, I don't know if that's the best strategy to win. But if the Rockets can be consistent about it, and I think there could be something to be said for it being in this weird Orlando bubble, the home court advantage is taken away, and just the Rockets playing style having some type of an advantage. Like I said, the end of the Mavs game, and then obviously in this Bucks game, that hey man, maybe there's something to this new Rockets defense here, and they could start forcing these turnovers on a consistent basis and get things, which will translate for them to get things going on their offense and keep the pace up. That whole thing. That's kind of all part of their system. And then when you talk about system, you could see these contrasting styles of play like to the forefront. It was to the extremes. You had Rockets with their extreme small ball, and then the Bucks with Giannis and Lopez and just their taller players, and just even how they play. They want to protect the inside as opposed to perimeter, where the Rockets are like, all right, whatever, we're just going to be chucking up as many threes as possible, which they did. They threw up, I think it was 61 threes. I think it was the most for the Rockets this season. There was some weird stat with it, but it was just crazy. I found the Rockets captivating in yesterday's game. I don't know what it was, just because you could see in many points, like I mentioned earlier, they were mismatched. But their style of play is just so messy, and they just completely own it, where they're just chucking up threes and just trying to get these steals and being it's just so disorienting, but at the same time you can't look away. It's like a car crash, you go past the car crash, you just can't really look away. With the Rockets, it's like this really messy, ugly style of play, but at the same time, when you look at the analytics, the stats, there's all this stuff that backs it where it makes sense. And you could see it. You saw it yesterday. They shot 34% from three. They shot over 63s. Harden didn't really even play that good. He shot for like, hold on, I got the stat here, 3 for 12 from three and only 24 points. He had like a 30% shooting percentage. Played bad, but they still won. The Rockets won. Like, I think overall as a team, they didn't even play that amazing in my opinion, and then still pulled out the win. So like I said, you saw these two teams just play different brand of basketball. Rockets obviously end up winning. And one of my takeaways is I feel like you could count on the Rockets role players when you need them. PJ Tucker, he's going to be hitting down that corner three, even though, like I said, the Rockets as a whole didn't play that well. And PJ Tucker, man, he shot like 0 for 6 in the first half from that corner three. Finally got it going in the second half, but you could count on him making that. You could count on Covington playing awesome defense and hitting threes. Daniel House, those guys know their role. Even their bench with Macklemore, Austin Rivers, Jeff Green, they're the same type of players that the Rockets are starting with, just maybe a little bit lesser version, but everyone knows their role on the Rockets. Whereas with the Bucks, I just got the sense that Giannis is this team. Giannis is the team. Like, without Giannis, they're nothing. Obviously, Brook Lopez had a good game yesterday, but I think that was more or less because of the Rockets' style of play, where he was able to take advantage. That's more of you're not going to see Brook Lopez dropping over 20 points night in and night out. You could just look at his stats throughout the season. That was just because the Rockets play such small ball. And I think, if anything, they were okay with Brook Lopez dropping over 20 points. They were probably more worried about the Bucks competing with them for threes. I just don't think there's another guy. You could obviously point to Middleton, who also had a good game yesterday, that outside of Giannis, you feel is going to be consistent. Like, you're going to get them the ball. They're going to be doing this thing. And I'm not going to say they know their role as opposed to not know their role, but I don't know. Who else on the Bucks are you counting on? That's kind of my question. That was one of the things as I was watching the game. I'm like, all right, it's mainly Giannis driving to the paint, and then Brook Lopez putting in buckets because of how small the Rockets lineup is. But outside of that, I really didn't have any faith that anyone else on the Bucks was going to step up. But like I said, that's just kind of my takeaway from it. All in all, I could say there's probably a little bit more hope with the Rockets. I've never been a believer in the Rockets in the past. But just with this whole weird NBA bubble thing and no home court advantage, like I said, could their style of play, I don't know, translate into playoff success? I think the thing that you could definitely take away, I definitely think the Rockets are making the semis. They're going to end up facing the Lakers or the Clippers, and that's going to be the big question. Are they going to be able to translate this, crazy small ball thing into success versus the Lakers or Clippers? I don't know about that. I think they had a really good matchup with the Bucks, who, in my opinion, aren't as good or complete as the Lakers or Clippers. They don't have the star power like those two teams. And the Bucks are good at what they do. I don't think they're really flexible in their style of play like the Lakers or Clippers can be. So yeah, I could definitely see the Rockets having some trouble with them. Now with the Bucks, I think they're lucky they're in the East. Could the Celtics, Raptors, 76ers, I'm not really buying. I don't know. Could one of those teams pose some trouble for the Bucks? Maybe after watching the game last night. I don't want to make it seem too knee jerk. Yeah, I think they could, but just overall, this Bucks team's giving me early Cavs LeBron vibes where you got Giannis, you had LeBron. They're the team. I just don't feel like there's much else you could count on. So I could definitely see the Bucks making the finals. I could definitely see them losing to the Raptors or Celtics. But either way, I just don't see them winning the championship, even if they do make the finals and they end up facing the Lakers or the Clippers. But yeah, that's kind of it. What do I know? Those were just my game notes from last night and just me rambling on about the kind of things that I was seeing. Let me know what you guys think about the Bucks Rockets if you guys watched the game last night, or just even what you think of either of those teams going forward in the NBA playoffs. I will be interested. And just even what you guys think of the NBA bubble. What do you think? And just overall how it has been so far. But other than that, stay chilling. And those are my game notes. Peace.